This may come as a shock to many of you, but Tesla has somewhat of an outspoken CEO. Yes, it's true. I know you heard it here first, but it's true. And the question is he damaging the brand? Are people fleeing from the brand? Are they terrified? And does it even matter? Let's have a quick chat about that. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. Joining me is my good friend, Randy Kirk. And when I say good friend, I mean, he's an acquaintance. He's all right. We don't hang out. Yeah. I'll have to visit you when I'm in LA for 1010 in not very many weeks. Yes. It's going to be exciting.
I think it's a month from tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Well, not as of the airing of this. It's probably a month from yesterday or the day before. Like that, yeah. That's why I try and keep it vague, is because I was at the show in Vancouver and someone said, "Oh, you're here. Does that mean there was no video today?" I said, my friend, the beast does not allow you to not feed it. You must feed the beast. So speaking of beasts, my guess is a decent segue. Did you know the vast majority of Tesla owners buy another one?
I've heard
Despite concerns that CEO Elon Musk's behavior, that's the gentleman I was speaking of earlier, could damage the brand's image, 2 out of 3 Tesla buyers bought another. Have you seen this?
I don't think I saw this article. I did see a article the other day that said that Tesla still has the #1 brand loyalty among all automobile brands. Yeah.
So this article is based on that S&P Global Mobility survey. Despite declining vehicle values, and reports, I mean, come on. We've been over that 100 times inside EVs. And reports that a CEO with controversial political relationships. Reports? Okay. Did AI write this? And public opinions has driven away its core customers. Tesla's loyalty rate remains the best in the industry. How exciting is that? For comparison, the industry average brand loyalty is 52.5%. S&P says that this rate increased by 2% year over year, which is the first increase since 2020 and the first since the pandemic. Or I guess that'd be a pandemic. With these guys, you don't know. I'd have to check. The loyalty comes seemingly without question from the majority of Tesla's buyers. What I've heard from people in other markets outside the U.S. is that outside the U.S., people don't care as much about his politics. People off X don't care as much about his politics. People off X may not even know much about his politics. And then there are people I know for whom they say, you know what, I do care. I don't like his politics, but it's a good car. And what am I going to do? Buy a Lucid because they're majority owned by the Saudis and I don't care for their politics. Am I going to buy a Chinese car because I'm not a super big fan of the Chinese politics? And, Ford, Volkswagen, GM, I don't even know how their politicians feel about, this issue or that issue. Maybe they are even worse. What's your take on it?
Okay, so I have a new take because I have mildly, responded a couple of times to a company's political position in terms of stopping purchasing because of their craziness. And so I started to try to evaluate my own, the way my brain works. And that's really something that nobody should ever do. For my brain or their own brain. But anyway, I really got into it. What I think happens is that you can have that moment where you really go, oh my gosh, this person's horrible, or this company's horrible, they're doing this. And so you stop. And you don't buy from them for a while. And then one day you wake up and you go, I really like Ben and Jerry's. I really like it. And so I was just on a trip to Vermont and, up in Canada up there. And, Ben and Jerry's is really big up there. And I was presented with a Ben and Jerry's opportunity and I took it.
I'm going to tell you straight up, Randy, I cannot support a billionaire who treats their employees poorly. And that's why I purchased all this stuff on Amazon, is to make a show about it.
That's right.
Oh, Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Where, yeah, where is the anti-Amazon crowd? They're everywhere.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, because they purchase Amazon products to make a podcast, which they
Right,
then host on Amazon Web
right.
Services, and then they write a book about it and publish it.
On Amazon, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. So
So,
there's some things. Yeah, there's some issues there. So let's take a look at Forbes, one of my least favorite abusers of paywalls. Um, they really love their paywalls. Tesla brand damage, not so much. So this gets into it. It's there's a bunch of articles I've got here. They all say the same thing slightly differently. Among individual brands, Tesla continues its run as the leader with a rate of 67.8% for the first half of the year. Customer loyalty has remained relatively strong. Do you know what came in number two for model loyalty?
I was in a General Motors.
It's so dumb. You're going to love it.
Oh,
It is General Motors leads multi brand manufacturers.
okay, both of it. Okay.
Jaguar, Land Rover, and Lincoln are among the highest year over year gainers. And the Lincoln Nautilus is the current leader in model loyalty at 46.7%.
46.7%.
What is a Lincoln Nautilus? Do you even know?
I have not the
I
remotest.
didn't know either. It's this thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. I guess. Her. Really?
Oh,
The Lincoln Nautilus, huh?
her.
Oh, okay. Her. This is another one here. This one's got some good information. Tesla's resilient brand loyalty proves good products still drive sales. This is by Simon Alvarez, and Simon is one of the few on these non-mainstream sites who I lean on pretty heavily. So
Yeah.
Simon, if you're watching, I think you're doing good work and keep it up. Maybe reach out and say hello. You never call, you never write. But a quick look, yeah, it is resilient. That is a good word for it. Tesla continues its run as a popular return brand. It's historically been a brand with strong loyal ties among their consumer base, despite a limited product portfolio. So other cars are coming. If you want, if you really despise the brand that much, there are other cars you can get. Remember, it's still 80-90% of Tesla owners who don't use FSD. If you take that out of the equation, there are other cars that are pretty darn good. You can find one that's maybe a little faster, maybe has more range, maybe has styling that you like better. Finding more than one of those elements in any single car is hard to do. But good products drive sales and loyalty. And as I pointed out to you, this was maybe, I don't know, quite a while ago now, maybe a year ago, when Tesla did their big $5,000 price drop. What I kept seeing on social media, especially on places like Reddit, where Elon and Tesla are not popular, I saw a lot of people saying, "Man, I really don't like that guy, but at that price, there's nothing close." Thoughts on that?
Yeah. So at the end, there's gonna be a few folks. I don't care, and I've talked about this on your show before, my show multiple times. This is on both ends of the political spectrum. There are a whole bunch of people on the right that don't like Elon because they equate him with the green, revolution, or they equate him with being forced to buy a car. Then you got folks like, you know, my best friend, who is a West LA guy, Jewish, and more liberal than anybody I know, he drives a Tesla. And he calls me one day. He says, "Randy," he says, "all these things that Elon's saying, maybe I should get rid of my Tesla." And just, I just said, "Yeah." And what are you going to get? So I was
Disappointed is
just,
what I'm going to get.
so I was just over at his house for his anniversary and he had a bunch of his old buddies there, and there were so many Teslas on the street I couldn't hardly count. It was like, multiple Teslas in that were visiting him, and they were all more or less, I would call, left leaning. Yeah.
So there's another article I wanted to share from Clean Technica. Now, Clean Technica is another one of these non-mainstream sites that I enjoy. This is by Zachary Shahan, but Paul Foss is a great author there. He doesn't publish as much as he used to, maybe a handful a month, but they've got a lot of really great resources there. Number one in brand loyalty, let's look at some charts. Um, Overall brand loyalty, this is over the years here. We've got 2020 strong, and then it dips through 2023 and then resurges this year. So maybe we're looking at different buyers over time. A lot of people only hold a car 2, 3, 4 years before turning it over. And while the average age of a car is 12 and a half years, the average new car buyer generally will turn over in 3 to 5 years. So the loyalty is quite strong. And I thought there might have been, no, there's not another chart on that one. But it's a lot of good information. And then, of course, just this one I just had to throw in because it's so hilarious. This one is, you'll never guess which non-Tesla vehicle has the most loyal owners. And yeah, if it's a Lincoln Nautilus, you're right. You could have given me infinity time. I didn't know that that was a vehicle that existed. Man, I'm going to keep buying these forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this article is just kind of funny. It's not what I would call a quality publication. The news is so shocking and unexpected that for the rest of today's The Morning Dump, I'm going to take it easy and focus on news that probably won't cause your bow tie to comically spin around or your top hat to suddenly pop off your head. See, this is a old school car author. I always loved car reviewers because they felt like sports writers where they were
Yeah.
free to be a little wily and silly, but generally much more intelligent. There were smarter guys than the sports writers. The sports writers, they know stats, but the car guys know engineering and the
Right.
technical stuff.
Right.
The Lincoln Nautilus. I share your confusion. So that's enough of that. I just thought it was a little bit fun, a little
Well, I
bit
do think.
funny.
Well, I do think that the other side of this is, and you've owned a whole bunch of cars. I've owned a whole bunch of cars. I've owned everything from Plymouth Valiants to Jaguar sedans and everything in between. And if you're going to be loyal to a brand, usually it within like the first couple of hours of driving it. You might have bought it for the looks. You might have bought it because it's got some unique feature that you wanted. You might have bought it because it takes care of something that you need it to do. It has a practical application. Carry 7 kids, have 7 seats like you're looking for.
Right.
So there's lots of things that you might be buying the vehicle for. But once you get it and you've driven it around for a day or so, you probably have already decided whether this is the future for you or whether it's not. There's been a couple of cars like that for me where it was like so different, so unique, so completely better than everything else in the market that it was like, no, this is where I'll be, for a long time. But nothing. I mean, in 60 years of buying cars, and I've been buying cars now for 60 years, I have never gotten into a car that was so radically different and unlikely to be challenged anytime soon, and different in great ways. Different in ways like performance, like never having to go to a gas station again, and like making my grandchildren giggle with light shows and farts. I mean,
The only car I've ever bought that to me was so different prior to Tesla that I felt that this is just it. This is the bee's knees was Lexus. And it had more tech than I'd ever seen, even in fairly nice cars. It drove nice. It sounded nice. It was Toyota underneath, so it was dependable. Some of the maintenance was a little expensive. I did get the timing chain replaced and I did get the brakes done preemptively just because I'm responsible. But when I made the switch to electric, that was, for me, that was, well, I'm not going back from electric. I don't care how nice your Mercedes is. I just don't want that in my, that's just not something I'm interested in. And then when it comes to electric cars, at least in the US, I can't go off the supercharger network. That's insane. And the autonomy, Elon could treat me very poorly and I would still buy a Tesla, as evidenced by the fact that Elon does treat me pretty poorly and I did buy a Tesla. So all of those things matter. Will him calming down and moderating his tone allow Tesla to sell more cars? Probably. Probably. It'd be nice. You don't have to be, no one requires you to be a villain, certainly not a cartoon villain, which sometimes he is. You know, he likes to say that he was bullied as a kid and he won't stand up for bullies anymore. Look, you're the richest man alive. You own the biggest bullhorn in human history. No one's bullying you. No one can get under your skin without your permission. Just revoke their permission and move on, man. Move on.
When you
But I
revoke
think
somebody's permission, everybody gets on his case for not being truly free speech.
who gives? Who gives? Who cares? You don't get. You can't get under my skin without my permission. I've had people say, "Oh, these people are trolling you." I'm like, right, but they're not real. I don't know who they are, and I don't care. You can't get under my skin without my permission. And you don't have my permission, Randy. Yeah, and I don't take criticism from people I wouldn't take advice from. And
There you go.
I hope Elon gets back to that position because engineer Elon is best Elon. And yeah, I don't know if you've heard the works of DJ Elon. They're okay.
Yeah.
They're not great. But yeah, so guys, in the comments, what do we miss? What do we misunderstand? How has the brand loyalty affected you personally? Not your neighbor, not your, I mean, I guess if you want to share stories about your coworker who's just dead set, great. Let's hear those too. I've got some that I can share that I have shared in the past about close friends who I know in real life who would buy one, except their spouse has vetoed the decision because of their very strong personal distaste for Elon. I do think that harms electrification, but only on the margins. I'd like things to move more quickly in that direction, but it's not up to me. So guys, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Head over to Randy Kirk's channel. See what he's up to. He has a special going on Patreon where you are allowed to give him money. That's a great deal. You're coming out ahead. And I have the same special running where I have a thank you video at the end. When you sign up, it says there's a little thank you video, and you get to see what I look like when I was a couple years younger and not quite as dead inside, but getting there. You could see it starting to crack. So guys, like, subscribe, do the usual, and stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots once the brand is no longer damaged.